If home is supposed to be safe, why was I typing 3 letters on my screen while being choked that night? Before I tell you how one text message turned our entire block into an armored vehicle landing zone, tell me where you're watching from. Hit follow if you believe that abusers are only strong until red and blue lights hit their face. The rain was hammering against my hospital window at 2:47 a.m. When I finally understood sometimes your battlefield isn't in some foreign country, sometimes it's in your own living room, and the enemy has your mother's house key. My name is Ava Whitaker, and 3 nights ago, I typed 3 letters that saved my life. I'm recording this from the military medical facility outside Tacoma, my left shoulder wrapped like a mummy, face still swollen enough that the nurse keeps asking if I want more ice. The bruises on my throat have turned that sick yellow-green color, the shade that makes people look away in elevators. But I need to tell this story while the details are still razor sharp, while I can still smell the splintered wood and taste the copper in my mouth. The fluorescent lights above my bed flicker every 17 seconds. I've been counting. It's what we do in tactical training. Find patterns. Establish control. Funny how those skills kick in even when your world's imploding. Even when your mother is standing in your doorway at 11:38 p.m., rain-soaked and trembling, with the man who's terrorized her for 15 years breathing bourbon fumes down her neck. Dale Riker's hand was wrapped around my throat before I could fully process that he'd kicked my door off its hinges. The sound still echoes that wet crack of wood surrendering to rage. My coffee table shattered under our combined weight. IKEA particle board exploding like shrapnel. His fingers found my windpipe with the precision of someone who'd done this before, who'd practiced on someone smaller, weaker. Someone like my mother. Through the blood rushing in my ears, through the static creeping into my vision, I heard Lydia's voice, thin, apologetic. I tried to stop him. Ava. I tried. No. Mom. You brought him here. My tactical training said, go for the eyes, the groin, the soft spots. My left arm said otherwise, the shoulder joint separating with a sound like bubble wrap under boots. But my right hand still worked. Muscle memory from 1,000 emergency drills guided my fingers to my phone. Fallen just within reach. 3 taps, 3 letters to Taryn Blake, my sister in arms. The only person whose response time I could count on. SOS. Location services on. Thank God for technology and paranoia. The last thing I remember before the darkness was the taste of rain through my broken window and Dale's voice, slurred but confident, just like her mother, always needed to learn things the hard way. Then came the lights. The beautiful, terrifying cascade of red and blue through my apartment. The sound of 17 SWAT vehicles surrounding our block like they were containing a war zone, which, I suppose, they were. Dale Riker froze mid-squeeze. It's amazing how fast violence drains from a man when he realizes he's no longer the apex predator in the room, when he understands that every exit is blocked by someone bigger, better armed, and absolutely willing to put him down. But to understand that night, to really grasp why a domestic dispute warranted the response of a small army, you need to know why I left home at 18. You need to understand that violence doesn't just appear one day like a summer storm. It grows in your kitchen, at your dinner table, behind closed doors where neighbors pretend not to hear. You need to know about Santa Cruz, about my real father, about the slow poison Dale Riker dripped into our lives after Dad died. The abuser doesn't arrive with horns and a pitchfork. He comes with a toolbox and a smile, offering to fix your leaking roof for free. Santa Cruz was salt air and surfboard wax. The cry of seagulls at 5:45 a.m. when Dad would shake me awake for dawn patrol. Best waves come to those who meet them halfway. Ava, he'd say, his calloused hands already warm from coffee, smelling of pine tar from the boat shop where he built custom sailboats for rich Silicon Valley types. I was Daddy's girl through and through. While other kids had ballet or soccer, I had the Pacific Ocean and a father who taught me to read swells like some people read books. He'd stand behind me on the board, steady hands on my shoulders. Teaching me balance was everything in surfing, in life. The workshop was my second home, sawdust in my hair, learning to sand with the grain, never against it. Respect the wood, he'd say. Force it and it'll splinter. Work with it and it'll last forever. Forever ended on Highway 17 during a February storm when I was 12. 2 officers at our door, rain streaming off their caps, water pooling on our welcome mat that said, "Life's better at the beach." They didn't need to speak. Mom's knees gave out before they opened their mouths. Head-on collision. Drunk driver crossed the median. Dad didn't suffer. Small mercies. They called it. The house went dark after that, and I don't mean the electricity. Mom pulled every curtain shut and lived in artificial twilight. She quit her job at the dental office, said she couldn't bear all those smiling faces. I learned to operate the washing machine by reading the manual, to make grocery lists, to forge her signature on school forms. Dinner became peanut butter sandwiches eaten standing over the sink while Mom stared at the TV without seeing. 6 months into our grief, the roof started leaking. The landlord sent Dale Riker on a Thursday afternoon. I remember because I was watching Mom ignore her 3rd therapist appointment reminder when he knocked. He was everything Dad wasn't thick where Dad was lean, loud where Dad was quiet, his laugh like a bark that made you flinch. But he fixed the roof without charging us, brought groceries, since he was passing by anyway. Made Mom laugh for the first time since the funeral with some stupid joke about a duck walking into a hardware store. Mom bloomed under his attention like a dying plant given water. I should have been happy. I wanted to be happy. But something in his eyes when he looked at me made my skin crawl like I was inventory he was cataloging, filing away for later. The proposal came 8 months after they met. Mom said yes before he finished asking. The ring was modest, appropriate for a contractor's salary, but the velvet box he pulled from his pocket for me held a silver necklace. "For my new daughter," he said, fastening it around my neck, his fingers lingering on my nape. The chain was just tight enough that I felt it when I swallowed. "So you always remember your place in this family?" That night, I tried taking it off. The clasp had been soldered shut. Mom saw me struggling with wire cutters in the bathroom at 2A, and slapped them from my hands. "Don't ruin this for me, Ava. Please. I can't do this alone anymore." So I stopped fighting. I wore the chain like a collar, felt it every time I turned my head. A constant reminder that I was no longer my father's daughter, but Dale Riker's possession. And then one day, a woman on TV said something about turning wounds into wisdom, and I knew I wouldn't survive this house much longer. I had to turn my fear into marching orders. The rules started small, almost reasonable. Bedroom door stays cracked. In case of emergencies, sweetheart. My after-school job at the bookstore, the one Dad had been so proud of me for getting, family needs that money more than you need pocket change. The cash went straight from my manager's hand to Dale's, every Friday at 5 p.m. sharp. He'd wait outside in his truck, engine running, country music bleeding through the windows. When I won the regional essay contest junior year, wrote about resilience. Ironically, the principal called home to congratulate Mom personally. That night at dinner, Dale read my essay aloud in a mocking falsetto while Mom pushed peas around her plate. "Listen to our little Shakespeare," he sneered. "Thinks she's better than us regular folks." When I reached for my award certificate, he held it over the stove burner until the edges curled black. "Words don't put food on the table, girl." Mom developed a talent for looking everywhere but at me. When Dale commented on my filling out, she suddenly needed something from the kitchen. When he started doing bedroom checks at 11 p.m., flashlight sweeping over my covers, she discovered a sudden interest in late-night TV downstairs. The woman who once fought a school board over curriculum changes couldn't meet her daughter's eyes across her own dinner table. Senior year, I started researching colleges, Berkeley, UCLA, anywhere far enough that Dale couldn't drop by unannounced. I hid the brochures under my mattress like contraband, filled out applications at the library, had my guidance counselor keep my transcripts in her locked drawer. I was going to major in journalism, tell stories that mattered, give voice to people who couldn't speak for themselves. My 18th birthday fell on a Tuesday. Mom made a cake lemon, my favorite, and we ate it at 3:30 p.m., before Dale got home from work. She seemed lighter that day, almost like her old self, humming while she did dishes. Maybe she thought 18 meant freedom for both of us. Dale arrived home with an envelope instead of a present. Not a card, a registration form for the local community college's administrative assistant program. "Already spoke to my buddy in HR at the construction company," he said, sliding the papers across the table. "They'll have a desk job waiting for you, 9 to 5, good benefits, close to home." His smile was all teeth. "Where you belong." "I want to study journalism," I said. My voice sounded thin, childish even to my own ears. The table jumped when his fist hit it. Mom's coffee mug tipped, brown liquid spreading across the application forms. "You'll study what I pay for, and I'm not paying to raise another ungrateful bitch who thinks she's too good for the life that feeds her." Mom was already reaching for paper towels, sopping up coffee like she could clean away the violence if she moved fast enough. "Dale, maybe we could discuss—" "Nothing to discuss, Lydia." He didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on mine, that dead shark stare that made my chest tight. She lives under my roof. She follows my rules. Or she can find out how friendly the streets are to little girls with big dreams. That night, I heard them arguing through the walls, Mom's voice rising to a pitch I hadn't heard since Dad died, Dale's responding like thunder. A door slammed. Silence. Then Mom's footsteps on the stairs, stopping outside my room. She stood there for 5 minutes. I counted the seconds before walking away without knocking. 3 days later, I found a military recruitment pamphlet tucked inside my history textbook at school. No note attached. The Army recruiter's office was 2 blocks from the bookstore. I walked past it every shift, watching uniformed men and women with straight spines and clear eyes, people who looked like they'd never stood frozen while someone burned their achievements over a stove burner. On Friday, I walked in. "I need to leave home," I told the recruiter, a woman with sergeant stripes and kind eyes. "But more than that, I need to learn how to fight back." She studied my face, took in the finger-shaped bruises on my upper arm I thought my cardigan had covered, the way I sat with my back to the wall and eyes on the door. "There's a special program," she said quietly. "Tactical training unit up in Washington, harder than regular service, but they teach you things basic training doesn't cover." She pulled out a folder marked Kodiak Group. "You'd need parental consent since you're fresh 18. But after that," she spread her hands, "after that, you belong to no one but yourself." I stared at the papers, freedom typed out in military terminology, and made my choice. Where do I sign? That night, I found my mother alone in the kitchen at 1 a.m., Dale snoring upstairs. I put the consent form on the counter between us. "Sign it, Mom. Give me this one thing." Her hand shook so hard she could barely hold the pen. But she signed. The bravest thing she ever did, and she did it in the dark, terrified of the man sleeping in her bed. The morning I told Dale, I made sure to do it in the kitchen while he was eating breakfast. Harder to hit someone when your mouth's full of scrambled eggs. Mom stood by the sink, her hands submerged in soapy water like she was anchoring herself. "I enlisted," I said. "I leave for Washington in 2 weeks." He set his fork down slowly, deliberately, the metal clicking against ceramic like a countdown. "The hell you did? The papers are signed. It's done." I kept my voice steady, though my knees felt liquid. The recruiter said, "I don't give a damn what some dyke in uniform told you." He stood, chair scraping against linoleum. "You're not going anywhere. It's federal law. Dale, once the papers are filed, interfering with military recruitment is a felony." I'd memorized that line, practiced it in the mirror until it sounded like truth instead of desperate hope. His face went purple-red, the color of bruises yet to come. But before he could move, I played my last card. "This house, the one you love lording over. It's paid for by my father's life insurance and VA benefits. Mom's name is on the deed. Only hers." The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Mom's hands had stopped moving in the sink. "You think you're smart," he said finally, voice low and dangerous. But smart girls still end up in ditches. The military won't want you when you're too broken to ship out. Touch me and I'll have MPs here before you can spell assault, I said. Kodiak Group protects its recruits. They've already flagged my file for monitoring. That was a lie, but he didn't know that. For 2 weeks, we lived like armed camps in the same house. Dale tested boundaries standing too close, blocking doorways, little demonstrations of control. I slept with a chair wedged under my doorknob and a bag packed under my bed. Mom drifted between us like a ghost, leaving sandwiches outside my door, washing Dale's clothes with the mechanical precision of someone who'd checked out completely. The night before I left, she came to my room at 2:15 carrying a manila envelope thick with cash. $200, she whispered, all I could hide. There's a debit card, too, linked to an account he doesn't know about. I've been putting away $5 here, $10 there. Mom, come with me. She shook her head, already backing toward the door. He'd find us. You know he would. But you're stronger than I ever was. Your father would be so proud. Dad would want you safe. Your father's dead, she said, the firmest her voice had been in years. And I made my choices, but you still have time to make different ones. She hugged me then, quick and desperate, her body feeling hollow like a bird's. There's a tracker app on your phone, she whispered in my ear. He installed it last week while you were in the shower. Delete it once you're on the bus. The Greyhound to Tacoma left at 6:30 a.m. Dale was already at work. Probably figured he'd deal with me when he got home. Mom stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I wanted to memorize her face, but all I could focus on was the finger-shaped bruises on her forearm, fresh enough that the purple hadn't yellowed yet. I'll come back for you, I said. No, she said firmly. You'll stay gone. You'll stay safe. That's how you'll honor your father, by living the life I couldn't give you. The bus smelled like diesel and other people's breakfast, but it was the sweetest air I'd ever breathed. I deleted the tracker app at the first stop, threw the silver necklace finally cut free with bolt cutters I'd bought that morning in a gas station trash can at the second. By the time we crossed into Oregon, I felt my spine straightening, vertebra by vertebra, like a plant reaching for sun after years in the dark. Kodiak Group's facility sat 40 miles outside Tacoma, surrounded by Douglas firs and chain link crowned with razor wire. The gate guard checked my papers 3 times, made 2 phone calls, then waved me through with something that might have been respect. The intake officer, a woman built like a brick wall with a smile to match, looked me up and down. Whitaker, Ava, the recruiter in Santa Cruz flagged your file, said you had potential in baggage in equal measure. Yes, ma'am. We turn baggage into body armor here. You ready for that? I thought of Dale's face when he'd come home to find me gone, of Mom's bruises, of my father teaching me to read waves. I've been ready my whole life, ma'am. Good. Your bunkmate's Taryn Blake. She'll teach you the ropes. Word of advice, keep up on the morning runs. Or she'll carry you. She has a thing about leaving people behind. That night, lying in a narrow bunk with military corners, listening to Taryn snore softly across the room, I pulled out Dad's photo, the only thing besides clothes I'd brought from home. In it, he was waxing a surfboard, looking up at the camera with that easy smile, sawdust in his hair like snow. I'm going to learn to fight, I whispered to his frozen face. And then I'm going to come back for her. I was strong now, but the chains from home, they were still pulling, just from further away. Freedom tastes like choosing your own cereal. Standing in the Safeway aisle 6 months after graduation from Kodiak, I spent 20 minutes just staring at boxes. Frosted, unfrosted, wheat, oat, clusters, flakes, and nobody to tell me which one matched my place in the world. I bought 4 different kinds and ate them mixed together like a rebellious child, standing at my kitchen counter at 6 a.m., crying into my Lucky Charms. My apartment was small, 500 square feet of water-stained ceiling and radiator that clanged like it was fighting demons, but it was mine. I'd hung Dad's photo over a second-hand desk where I wrote reports for my security consulting job. Turned out, all that tactical training made me valuable to companies wanting vulnerability assessments. Decent money, flexible hours, and nobody's hands around my throat. Taryn lived 3 blocks away. We ran together every morning at 5:15, old habits dying hard. She never asked about the nightmares that had me up anyway. Just showed up at my door with coffee and that crooked smile that had gotten me through Hell Week at Kodiak. "You check in with your mom lately?" she asked one Thursday, stretching against a lamppost while dawn cracked pink over Tacoma. "Last Sunday. Same as always." The calls followed a script. Mom would answer on the second ring, never the first. That seemed too eager. Never the third. That might make Dale suspicious. We'd exchange weather reports and grocery prices while Dale's TV blared in the background. 3 minutes maximum before his voice would rumble something and she'd chirp, "Oh, I should go. Love you, honey." But that Christmas, something shifted. The photo arrived in my email at 11:47 p.m. on December 23rd. Mom in front of their artificial tree, wearing a red sweater I'd never seen. Her smile tissue paper thin. Dale's arm around her shoulders looked like a python's coil, but it was the makeup caked on her left cheekbone that made my stomach drop too thick. Wrong shade. The kind of coverage you learn from YouTube tutorials about concealing imperfections. I called immediately. Dale answered, Well. The prodigal daughter remembers she has a family. Put Mom on." "She's indisposed." I heard ice clink in a glass. "But since I've got you, let's chat about respect. See, when you left, your mother lost her backbone, gets all weepy, forgetful, burned dinner twice this week, had to remind her about consequences. If you touch her, what you'll come running home. That's what I'm counting on, soldier girl. Got your old room all ready. Even kept that nice silver necklace you left behind." The line went dead. I booked a flight for the next morning, but Mom called from a neighbor's phone at 1 a.m. "Don't come, please. It'll make everything worse. I'm fine. I'm handling it." "Mom, you're not." "I am handling it my way. If you come here, he'll—" A pause. Breathing. "He says he knows where you live. He's lying, I think. But Ava, please, stay away." After that, the signs multiplied. Hang-up calls from blocked numbers at 3:33 a.m. Dale's old football number. A Marlboro cigarette butt under my apartment window. His brand. Emails with no text. Just attachments of photos. My old house. My high school. That bench where Dad taught me to tie sailing knots. Each one felt like fingers tightening around my throat from 800 miles away. Then came the voicemail that made my blood run cold. Not Dale's voice. Mom's, slurred and wrong. "Hey, baby, just wanted you to know we're taking a little vacation. Dale says we might drive up north, see the sights. Wouldn't it be nice if we bumped into each other? He misses you so much. Sweetie, we both do." I played it for Captain Kincaid the next morning. "Textbook escalation," she said, filling out forms in triplicate. "But until he makes a credible, specific threat or shows up, law enforcement's hands are tied. Document everything. Vary your routes. And Whitaker." She looked up from her paperwork. "Trust your gut. When he comes, and men like him always come, be ready." I upgraded my locks, installed cameras, started sleeping with my service weapon in the nightstand instead of the safe. Taryn began crashing on my couch randomly, claiming her heating was broken. But I knew better. The Kodiak Group family protected its own. 2 weeks passed. 3. The calls stopped. The emails ended. Silence somehow felt worse than harassment, like the pause before a sniper's shot. Then, Thursday night, 9 days ago now, it rained. That soft Seattle drizzle that makes the whole world smell like pine and promises. At 11:36 p.m., someone knocked on my door. Tap, tap, tap. Polite, almost gentle. The kind of knock that says, "I'm harmless, just a neighbor needing sugar." But neighbors don't breathe that heavy. Neighbors don't make your childhood trauma stand up in your chest and scream. The storm had arrived, and it was knocking like a gentleman. I checked the peephole. Nothing. Just rain-blurred hallway light. My hand was already on my Glock when the door exploded inward. The deadbolt held for half a second before the wood frame splintered, sending chunks of my security deposit across the living room. Dale filled the doorway like a bad dream made flesh, bourbon fumes rolling off him in waves, eyes glassy but focused, predator eyes, behind him. Mom stood in the hallway, soaked to the skin, her face a mask of resignation and terror. "Hey there, soldier girl," Dale slurred, stepping inside with the careful precision of a drunk who knows exactly how drunk he is. "Nice place. Cozy. Get out. That's no way to greet family." He grabbed Mom's wrist, yanked her inside. She stumbled, caught herself on the wall, wouldn't look at me. "Lydia, tell your daughter to mind her manners." "Ava," Mom whispered, and it was an apology, not a greeting. My training said create distance, call for backup, control the situation. My body said, kill him. "Dale, you're drunk." "Leave now, and I won't call the cops." He laughed, that bark that used to make me flinch at dinner tables. With what phone? He moved faster than a drunk man should. The coffee table caught me behind the knees as I backed up, and we went down together, the IKEA particle board exploding under our combined weight. My phone skittered across the floor, screen cracking against the radiator. Dale's hands found my throat with the muscle memory of a man who'd practiced this moment in his mind 1,000 times. 15 years, he grunted, breath hot and sour against my face. 15 years I provided for you ungrateful bitches, and this is the thanks I get, you poisoning her against me. My left arm came up for a defensive block, and that's when I felt it, that wet celery snap of my shoulder separating. The pain shot down to my fingertips, white hot and electric. Dale felt it too, smiled through his exertion. "I'm not so tough now. Are you—" Through the growing static in my vision, I saw Mom standing frozen by the door, not running, not helping, just watching like she had all those years, trapped in a cage of her own making. The betrayal hurt worse than the joint separation, worse than the fingers crushing my windpipe. My right hand swept the floor, found my phone. Muscle memory from 1,000 emergency drills unlock. Messages. Most recent contact. Taryn. Always Taryn. My thumb managed 3 letters before the darkness started creeping in. SOS. Location services were always on. Paranoia saves lives. Dale was saying something about respect, about knowing my place, about how Mom had begged him to give me another chance. His words blurred together with the blood rushing in my ears. My vision tunneled, darkness creeping from the edges like spilled ink. The last thing I saw was my father's photo on the wall, watching this happen in his home's shadow. Then car doors. Multiple. Slamming in sequence like dominoes. Dale's grip loosened slightly. What? The world exploded in light and sound. Red and blue strobes turned my apartment into a violent disco. Voices on megaphones, boots on stairs, not just a few cops answering a domestic. This was something else. This was the cavalry. Through the window. I could see them. SWAT vehicles lined up like black beetles. Tactical teams pouring out, shields up, weapons ready. The entire block looked like a terrorism response. Someone had decided Dale Riker was worth the full show of force. "Release the victim hands where we can see them exit now." The voice boomed like God's own judgment through the rain. Dale's face went from drunk red to corpse white in the span of a heartbeat. His hands fell away from my throat as he turned toward the window, seeing his worst nightmare materialized in steel and Kevlar. "This is Team Leader Alpha. We have snipers in position. You have 5 seconds to comply." "How?" Dale started, but never finished. My door, what was left of it, burst inward. Taryn came through first, low and fast, followed by 2 operators in full tactical gear. Dale turned, maybe to run, maybe to fight, but Taryn's knee was already in his kidney, driving him face first into the wreckage of my coffee table. One operator twisted his arm until I heard cartilage pop. The other zip-tied him with the efficiency of someone wrapping a present. "I got you. Whitaker." Taryn's face appeared above mine, hands gentle on my throat, checking for damage. "Just breathe. Nice and easy." Behind her, I watched Dale being dragged out like garbage, his face pressed into the floor, rain and blood mixing on his cheeks. 17 SWAT vehicles for one drunk contractor. But as Taryn helped me sit up, as I saw Captain Kincaid in the doorway directing traffic with grim satisfaction, I understood. This wasn't just about me. This was about every Ava Whitaker who'd called for help and gotten a single patrol car. Or nothing at all. This was Kodiak Group sending a message touch one of ours, and we'll bring the apocalypse to your door. "Mom," I croaked, throat feeling like sandpaper. She was still standing against the wall, untouched but trembling, watching uniformed officers flood her life. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." The last thing I remember before the EMTs arrived was the sound rain on tactical helmets, radios crackling, suspect secured, and somewhere in the distance, Dale Riker learning what it felt like to be truly powerless. Taryn didn't call 911 first. That 3-letter text triggered something we'd only joked about during training, the nuclear option. Every Kodiak Group operative had emergency protocols, but Taryn Blake had connections that ran deeper than standard channels. Her mother worked dispatch for Tacoma PD. Her brother commanded a SWAT unit in Pierce County. Her girlfriend coordinated emergency services for Joint Base Lewis McChord. One text from Taryn became 5 calls in 30 seconds. "Officer down, civilian close, domestic violence in progress." That's what she told them. Technically true if you counted my reserve status. She pinged my location to 3 different emergency networks simultaneously while running to her car, then added the magic words that turn a simple response into an invasion. "Suspect potentially armed, possible hostage situation, requesting immediate backup, all available units." The rain helped. Low visibility meant extra vehicles for scene containment. The Thursday night shift meant bored tactical teams eager for action. But what really did it was Captain Kincaid, who'd been monitoring my situation and happened to be having drinks with the Tacoma police chief when Taryn's call came through. "That's my operative," Kincaid told him. "The one with the stalker I filed reports about. If he's there, he crossed state lines to commit assault. That makes it federal." Within 6 minutes, 17 vehicles were converging on my block. Not just patrol cars, 2 Bearcat armored vehicles, 3 tactical vans, K9 units, ambulances staged at both corners. Someone called in the Pierce County Sheriff's tactical team who'd been training nearby. The Washington State Patrol happened to have a unit 2 blocks away. Even a park ranger somehow ended up in the mix, though nobody's quite sure why. From my window, before I passed out, it looked like they were preparing to storm a terrorist cell. Dale Riker had no idea what hit him. One moment he was king of his little world, hands around my throat, teaching me a lesson about respect. The next, he was staring at enough firepower to level a city block. Red and blue lights turned the rain into falling jewels, each drop catching the strobe of justice finally arriving. The best part, what Taryn told me later while I was getting my shoulder reset, was his face when they breached. "Complete system failure," she laughed, holding my good hand while they manipulated the joint. Like watching a computer crash. He literally couldn't process it. Kept saying, "It's just a family dispute," while 7 officers were piling on him. They'd swept in like a tsunami. First team through the door, second team covering the hallway, third team evacuating neighbors. Someone's body cam caught Dale trying to explain that he was my stepfather, that this was a misunderstanding, even as they pressed his face into my broken coffee table hard enough to leave wood grain imprinted on his cheek. "Sir, stop resisting." "I'm not, this is my family." "Stop resisting." The zip ties went on so tight his fingers turned purple. They searched him 3 times, confiscated a pocket knife, his truck keys, even his belt. When he complained about the rain in his eyes as they perp-walked him out, an officer accidentally tripped, sending Dale face first into a puddle. "Oops," the officer said flatly. "These steps are slippery." 17 vehicles might have been overkill for one drunk contractor, but it sent a message that echoed through every badge and gun present. This is what happens when you touch someone protected. This is what force looks like when it's finally on the right side. Mom was processed separately, gently. A female officer wrapped her in a silver emergency blanket, took her statement in a warm patrol car, away from the chaos. I heard later that she told them everything 15 years of everything. The bruises, the control, how he'd forced her to drive him here, threatened to hurt them both if she didn't play along. The dam broke, and 15 years of silence poured out into an official record that would bury Dale Riker in charges. The incident commander, a sergeant with 30 years on the job, surveyed the scene 17 vehicles, 40-plus officers, a helicopter someone had called in now circling overhead with its spotlight turning my apartment into noon, and shrugged. "Bit much," someone asked him. "Nah," he replied, watching Dale get stuffed into a patrol car, having to duck his head for him when he refused to comply. "Sometimes you gotta remind these bastards that they're not the apex predator. They're just meat that hasn't met the grinder yet." Captain Kincaid appeared at my side as the EMTs worked, her expression satisfaction mixed with fury. "Whitaker, you solid, copy that captain." "Good, because this son of a bitch just crossed state lines to commit assault on a federal operative. That's FBI territory now. He's going to learn what real power looks like, and it's not going to be him standing over scared women." Through the rain and chaos, through the pain and the oxygen mask the EMTs insisted on, I watched Dale Riker shrink. In our house, he'd been a giant, a monster, inevitable as gravity. In the back of that patrol car, lit up by 17 vehicles worth of emergency lights. He was just another drunk loser who'd finally met consequences with teeth. The last thing I saw before they loaded me into the ambulance was Mom, standing in the rain despite the officers trying to escort her to shelter. She was watching Dale's patrol car pull away, and for the first time in 15 years, her spine was straight. "Ava," she called out, her voice carrying over the rain and radios. "Thank you." I couldn't speak around the oxygen mask, but I nodded. We both knew what she was thanking me for, not just for surviving, not just for the text that brought the cavalry, for showing her that monsters could be caged after all. The floor of my apartment looked like a crime scene photo because it was wood splinters from the door frames scattered like broken teeth. My coffee table reduced to IKEA confetti. The silver necklace Dale had mentioned, the one I thought I'd thrown away, lay in a puddle of rainwater by the window. He must have kept it all these years, brought it along like some sick trophy. It glinted under the emergency lights, looking exactly like what it had always been, a chain pretending to be jewelry. They worked on my shoulder right there, EMT holding me steady while another guided it back with a sound like knuckles cracking. 1, 2, 3. The relief was instant, even through the fire of manipulation. My body knew how to be whole again, even after being broken. Mom sat in the back of an ambulance, still wrapped in that silver blanket, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her but somehow more solid, like she'd been hollowed out and filled with something new. When our eyes met across the chaos, she mouthed 2 words, "I'm done." Dale was processed like meat through a machine, booking photos with those dead shark eyes now wide with the confusion of prey. Federal charges meant federal custody meant no bail that his contractor savings could touch. Crossing state lines to commit assault. Kidnapping by forcing Mom to drive. Breaking and entering. Attempted murder. The list grew as more uniforms took statements. 15 years of terror reduced to item numbers on a charging document. The rain was starting to ease, just a whisper against the windows now. 4:17 a.m. according to the ambulance clock. The whole thing from Dale's polite knock to his face in the puddle had taken less than an hour. 15 years of fear dismantled in 43 minutes. Taryn rode with me to the military medical facility, held my good hand while they ran x-rays and wrapped my ribs. "You know this is going in the Kodiak training manual." "Right," she said. "The night one text brought 17 vehicles." "Bit excessive," I croaked, throat still raw. "Nah." She squeezed my fingers. "Should have been 30. Captain Kincaid visited at 0600, bringing coffee and paperwork. "The FBI wants a full statement when you're ready. Dale's looking at 15 to 20. Minimum. Your mother's testimony alone would sink him, but combined with the assault on you, the stalking across state lines, the digital trail of harassment." She smiled, sharp as a blade. "He's done." "What about Mom?" "Women's shelter for now. Her choice. We've connected her with resources, counseling, legal aid for the divorce. She's got options now. Real ones." Through the hospital window, dawn was breaking over Tacoma, painting the sky the color of healing bruises. Purple to yellow to gold, somewhere in federal custody. Dale Riker was learning what it felt like when the doors locked from the outside, when someone else controlled when you ate, slept, breathed. When your voice meant nothing and your size meant less. The sound I'll remember forever isn't the door breaking or the sirens or even Dale's voice cutting off mid-threat. It's the click of those handcuffs. Such a small sound to end such a long nightmare. Metal on metal, precise and final as a period at the end of a sentence. Mom flew back to Santa Cruz that afternoon, but not to the house. "I'm selling it," she told me at the airport, looking me straight in the eye for the first time in years. "Going to buy something small near the beach. Your father would have liked that." "He would have," I agreed. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my wrapped ribs and immobilized shoulder. "You did what I couldn't. You got strong enough to save us both." "You saved yourself the night you signed those papers," I told her. Everything else was just logistics. 3 days later, from this hospital bed where I'm recording this, I got a video from Taryn. Mom at the beach in Santa Cruz, feet in the sand, watching surfers catch the morning waves. She looked 10 years younger, 15 pounds heavier, like someone had pumped life back into a deflated balloon. Behind her, a for sale sign stood in front of Dale's house. Someone had already made an offer. That was yesterday. Today. The bruises are turning yellow-green, my shoulder's starting to work again, and 17 different officers have stopped by to check on the operative who brought the thunder. Dale Riker thought he was the storm. Turns out he was just bad weather, and I'd learned to be the whole damn forecast. The rain's stopped completely now. Outside my window, Tacoma's waking up to a clear morning, the kind where everything looks washed clean. Somewhere, Mom's probably having coffee on a beach. Somewhere else, Dale's having his first prison breakfast. And me, I'm here, breathing freely. No hands on my throat, no chain around my neck. Sometimes your battlefield isn't overseas. Sometimes it's in your living room. Sometimes the enemy has your mother's house key and 15 years of practice. But here's what I learned that night. What those 17 vehicles taught me when you're finally ready to fight back. Really ready. You don't have to fight alone. You just need to send the right 3 letters to the right person. The cavalry's out there, waiting. You just have to call them in. SOS. 3 letters. 17 vehicles. 1 monster in a cage. That's how you win a war that started when you were 12. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it was heavy, but sometimes the heavy stories are the ones that need telling. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're listening from. I love connecting with all of you around the world. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your stories matter too, and this community is here for all of us who've had to fight battles in places that were supposed to be safe. Stay strong, everyone.